Rosh Sin says, in my opinion, there's a lot of tension. Wano, Scabbards in the rain moment and losing to Kaido, failing to save Yasue, Momo almost dying, Udon Poison. Udon Poison, see, the fact that you're listing something like Udon Poison, to me, it's just like, okay, let me say this. So in Wano, right, the only characters that are really scared or uncertain at points are pretty much the Scabbards. So from that perspective, I see what you're saying. But to me, that's kind of the equivalent of like, to be honest, like Drum Kingdom type level shit, right? Obviously, almost any island that we go to, the characters of that island, the citizens of that island, they're going to be scared, right? Because the reason they couldn't beat this villain is because they can't beat this villain, right? Like, that's why the Straw Hats, etc. are needed. So from those characters' perspective, yeah, things will always be, you'll always find tension, right? You'll always find tension. Keep in mind the moment that you're talking about the Scabbards in the rain, that is, by the way, you could call it a low point for the Scabbards, right? But that is also them just being upset because people are like 10 minutes late to their meeting. It's not that big of a deal, right? Just putting that in context, right? It's like, oh no, I threw a party and not everyone's not here at 8 p.m. Fuck, it's ruined. It's all ruined. That aside, right? Let's be real. That's not what I mean by tension, right? We know that in pretty much every single arc, yeah, the citizens of the island, they're going to be fucking scared. They're going to be worried. They're going to be uncertain. The characters, right? The Straw Hats, Kid, Law, etc., the ones who are really going to be carrying out the action of the story, that's where I look to for significant tension. And the arcs that to me have the most tension are the arcs where the feelings of the Straw Hats tend to sync up with the feelings of the citizens of the island, right? So around the same time that everything is going to hell in Alabasta, Operation Utopia has taken off, people are going to war against the king because they think the king has betrayed him, etc. That is synced up with Luffy having lost to Crocodile and the entire Straw Hat crew being legitimately worried and scared that Luffy has lost to Crocodile. There's significant tension. They're on edge. They're arguing with each other. They're riding to Alabasta to basically have a Hail Mary, right? They don't know if they're going to be able to win, but they're riding to Alaberna, the capital, because they're like, this is our Hail Mary. This is our final chance, right? We have to. We've already failed once. This is our final chance, right? And I could go down the list of every major sort of arc, Dressrosa, Alabasta, Enies Lobby, Skypiea, etc. It's when the main characters, the Straw Hats, the characters that are going to be carrying out the fights, the action, the people who are ultimately going to be playing the role of the hero of the arc, when they are experiencing tension and uncertainty and having to put their faith in some sort of last chance type thing, or their faith in Luffy, even though they know the odds are stacked against them, when they're going through emotional difficulty, emotional low points, heaviness, right? That's what I call real tension, because I expect the random citizens of the arc, like, there's not going to be a single arc in any, like, to say that the Scabbards, well, they experience uncertainty, or if you're a Momonosuke dating, he's like a fucking 8-year-old kid. That's like, come on, that's the bare minimum. If we didn't have like anybody ever at any point scared at all throughout the arc, then it's like, we're not even talking about like lack of dramatic tension anymore. We're talking about like, it's not even a story at that point. It's literally just like, it's just a series of events or some shit, right? Big News Morgan says, do you agree that Kid gets too much hate and downplay? He overpowered Big Mom multiple times in their 2v1 fight and damaged her heavily. If you're talking about as a character, I think Kid doesn't get enough hate. If you're talking about strength, I think Kid's strength is heavily downplayed. Kid is clearly stronger than Law. Clearly stronger than Law. Kid, I made this case before. There are multiple points in the Big Mom fight that Kid, multiple is an exaggeration. 2 points in the Big Mom fight. 2 points in the Big Mom fight where Kid takes on Big Mom head on and gets the better of her. That's not saying much. Kid is not Yonko level or anything like that, however you want, or whatever level you want to say, right? That's nothing crazy. Kid's not Yonko level or whatever, right? But Kid has, like, that's impressive. There's not many characters that go up, like, head on against a Yonko and get a better of them in an interaction, right? That's actually pretty rare. And Kid did that twice over the course of the Big Mom fight. In terms of who had better 1v1 showings, like showed more that they could be capable as a 1v1 fighter, it's Kid. And it's not close. Law had 0 good showings as a 1v1 fighter. I'm like, people overrate the fuck out of Law. It's absolutely insane. Stormfox says, Law is screwed against Future Sight and Wide Ranged. Law is screwed against anyone stronger than Doflamingo who's fighting him 1v1. Law is screwed the moment he doesn't have a babysitter by his side. Benjamin Lewis says, what's Hiyori's future role? Will her and Zoro bang? Hiyori and Zoro have less on-screen chemistry than I think any manga romance I can remember at all. You know what I mean? Like, any. Like, I can't think of something that has less chemistry than Zoro and Hiyori. And, like, you can look at something like Zoro and Tashigi, and it's like, yeah, there's like some cool, like it's a fun dynamic to follow and read. Zoro and Hiyori is just bizarre. It's just like she just meets him, he's ignoring her the entire time, but she's like automatically just like fawning over him, and that's basically their dynamic. Like there's just nothing to it really, right? Like I could compare it to plenty of others, but there's always like a little story or something like that comes out of it, right? Like Luffy and Hancock, how did it shift to the dynamic that it is today? Even though it's like a shitty gag romance, like it started with them in certain positions, and then Luffy had to do certain things that swung her opinion over to him, and now like it's fun to see the way that their dynamic has developed over time, right? Zoro and Hiyori is just really, really weird. Maybe that Oda will take it somewhere, but like, you know, you can even compare it to like Sanji and Pudding, which is the simple equivalent romance that you can look at from the most recent arc. Sanji and Pudding, maybe that's not a fair comparison. You can look at Sanji and Viola, and that's actually got something, right? Like there's a little bit of a story that Oda wrote around Sanji and Viola, like from where they were initially to what it became to like, oh wow, that actually played out into like a genuine romance in some sort of a sense by the end of it. Dragon says the streets want Zoro and Robin, the demon and the King of Hell. I mean, Zoro and Robin, forget romance aside or whatever, that was a really, really fun dynamic to read for a good section of the story. Everything from Jaya through Skypiea, and even parts of, like, well, Enies Lobby, they didn't interact much, but Jaya through Skypiea, the Zoro and Robin dynamic was great. It was really, really good. I'm not even talking romantically or whatever, just it was just a great dynamic to follow. Because Zoro was the last one that she had to sort of win over, and the process of that sort of happening and Zoro softening up around her, it's ultimately what it got to. I thought that was really great. Randy Troy likes Alabasta. Alabasta is so good. Alabasta is weirdly underrated by the community because I think it happened a while ago. But to me, Alabasta is like I've always said this. To me, Alabasta is classic One Piece in that it's like before the world really, really got big, right? Before we got the larger scope of the One Piece story, right? Like, I'd say everything Enies Lobby on is a more complicated story. Alabasta was just like the OG One Piece arc. It was like not as simple as Arlong Park, right? But not quite as crazy and complex as like a Dressrosa or Wano or whatever, right? Marineford, things like that. Alabasta was just like the classic One Piece storyline. They're out to save a large kingdom. They've got a very strong, formidable opponent with a powerful organization underneath him. Right, you've got an excellent cast of island-specific citizens that you can build the story around, and you can tie the Straw Hat story to their stories through the bond of Straw Hats and Vivi. The themes of friendship are the most prevalent in that arc out of any other arc in One Piece, right? And everybody has fights. Everybody has their own character moments and bits of character development. Experience significant highs and lows. It's just got a sweeping scope that was not present in any arc in East Blue. Alabasta is just, to me, that's just like the classic One Piece arc. And it's not too cluttered. It's well-paced from start to finish. You have any outside characters that are introduced are interesting, like Ace and Smoker, and they don't overstay their welcome. I think Alabasta is just a very, like, the cleanest One Piece arc. I don't need to see Law in the next arc, man.